Perfect. All right. So we'll get started. Just first of all, for those that are on Zoom, again, if you have a question, go ahead and either raise your hand. It's in the little chat button, or you can put in the chat. You can put your questions and we'll answer them. Feel free to ask any questions at any time. Today, we're going to be talking about buying your first home. No, we're good. Yeah, no, we're good. So we're going to be talking about how to buy your first home and how to overcome the 3 major hurdles to achieving home ownership. In this country, true wealth is defined of how many homes you own and how long you've owned them. If you look at the net worth of a buyer versus a renter, it's about 40 to 80 times. A net renter's net worth is about $4,000 to $5,000, as someone that owns a home is about $300,000. So you obviously want to find out how to own homes, because that is the way you're going to build true wealth in this country. And one day you'll be like Uncle Mikey and you'll own a bunch of properties. So again, ask questions as we go through here. We're going to be talking, sorry. There we go. We're going to be talking about the 3 major hurdles to achieve homeownership. So number 1, NAR did a study that said that basically did a study to say that what is the number 1 reason why people can't buy a home, and it's because of down payment or closing cost. So we're going to talk about how to overcome that hurdle. Number 2 is your credit. So most people think you need a 720 credit score, but there's actually FHA loans that you can do it as 580. And then there's thresholds, 580, 640, 680, and 720. And each time you hit one of those thresholds, you open yourself up to better programs. It used to be better rates, but right now you can actually get better rates if you have shittier credit, which kind of makes no sense, but it is what it is. And then thirdly, we're going to be talking about how to increase your purchasing power. So first, about the Complete Real Estate Group, we are a group of certified real estate planners. So we help people build, protect, and transfer generational wealth. So way beyond just the transaction, we actually want to teach you how to use real estate for the best financial investment you can possibly get, as well as how to protect that asset, and then ultimately how to transfer your wealth to the next generation. There's 9 of us on the team. We have our dedicated transaction coordinator. We have a team of VAs that help us with research and marketing. And then we have individuals, planners that cover different territories, kind of like title. We do cover from San Diego to Santa Barbara, as well as we have 306 certified real estate planners around the country. So no matter where you're thinking about buying, we can help you. Wanted to say thanks to our sponsors and give them a little opportunity to come up and speak. Seth's not here, so I'll just speak for him. He's a property inspector. He does really thorough home inspections. Anytime you buy a home, you need to do a home inspection. I know the last couple of years, the trend was to waive them. Don't do it. Even if you just do an inspection, it's for informational purposes only. You don't want to buy a house and then find out you have a $15,000 sewer to replace, or the roof is leaking and now you can't do anything about it. In my opinion, we're going to see a bunch of lawsuits that come up because I think buyers agents did an injustice to their buyers. If Tamara, you want to come up and just talk a little bit about what it is that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, they got you.
Perfect. Great to see all of you, and wonderful. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about home warranty. I don't know if those of you in the room know about it, but it's huge. If you are buying a house, and especially buying your first house, and you have that home inspection and the house looks good, everything looks great. The home warranty is really nice to have, because if you have a failure with a working system inside the main foundation, whether it's plumbing, heating, electrical systems, if you move in and 3 months later you have to replace your air conditioning system, there's money out of your pocket. So if you have a home warranty, that will take care of some, if not all, of those costs. So again, plumbing would be toilet issues, faucets, water heaters. That's the big one, is water heater, big expense. We'll cover all of those things. Your heating system, air conditioning, electrical systems, appliances. So you're not out of pocket as much as you would be. And moving into your house, if you're putting your last cent down for the down payment, you don't want to have that extra expense. So that's what we do. I love what you just said about a home inspection. So you know exactly what you're getting into, but there are things that are unknown that you don't know when you're moving into that house. And that's what we're there for. We're there for a year. And we will send a technician out. We have a list of the people we send. You place the claim, we send them out, and they take care of it. There is a deductible. Generally, it's in the area of $75 to $85, and that's what you pay to replace a toilet or to fix some outlets or, replace a refrigerator. So, and there are extra things that we can add. You have the standard things in a house, but there are extra things we can add, like pool equipment, air conditioners. Not everybody has air conditioning. Septic system. So there are other things that we can add. And usually that is paid for by the seller. In this market, that's what I see. I see, buyers, agents writing offers, and usually there's the majority, if not all of that cost being paid for by the seller. So if you have more questions, I have all of the information here. So does Cory. But it's definitely an advantage and something that you want to have as a buyer. There you go. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And what I can say is if you buy a house through us, we actually pay for 2 years of a home warranty because I think it is that important. My water heater just started leaking and we got it replaced for $75 on a brand new water heater. So versus having to spend $4,000 to $5,000 on a water heater. So next, I would like to bring up Jessica Wood. She's with Title. Oh, yes, here.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Cory, for bringing us all here and always adding value and just being a great resource for everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. My name is Jessica Wood. I'm with First American Title. We are one of the largest national title companies in the nation. We've been doing this for over 130 years. I realize a lot of people aren't really familiar with title insurance. It's a standard part of the real estate transaction. Essentially, we're making sure that there's marketable title for the buyers. We're checking the chain of title to see if there's any issues, any liens, any fraud, any forgeries. So whereas most insurances that you might be familiar with, like car insurance, homeowners insurance, those forms of insurance are protecting you from future issues, whereas title insurance is protecting you usually from past issues. It's a one-time fee typically paid at the closing of a transaction versus where other forms of insurance you're usually paying monthly or quarterly. Title is a one-time fee, standard part of the transaction. And there's two different types of policies. There's an owner's policy and then there's a lender's policy. If there's a loan on the property, typically the lender's going to want to have some insurance too. So just to give you a ballpark range, if you're purchasing, let's say an $800,000 property, you're putting 20% down. So you're going to have a $640,000 loan, you're looking at about $3,200 in title fees. And oftentimes everything's negotiable, but oftentimes the seller is paying for a portion of that for your owner's policy, and the buyer would typically be paying for the title insurance on the loan, the lender's policy. I have a couple flyers here that I'll pass out to the people who are here in person, and maybe I'll get these to you digitally in case the people on Zoom would like a copy. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anything else you'd like me to add, Cory?
I think that's, yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm here to answer questions. Call, text, email me anytime. I'll make sure Cory has my info.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Sean with insurance. So a different type of insurance other than title. And
Morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? So I'm Sean with TWFG Insurance. We do homeowners insurance. So I'm going to go a little bit more in detail, kind of what home insurance is, just because pretty much homeowners insurance, when you have a claim or a fire, they're what's going to come make your house right again. Next slide. So it's coverage to rebuild a home. Your big covered losses are fire, vandalism, wind, sudden water damage, and theft. And then, of course, liability. So if you have a dog and they bite somebody and you get sued because of that, your homeowner's insurance policy protects you, so they can't go against the home you just worked so hard to buy. Okay, here is a sample policy. So the dwelling of it's $450,000. You insure the cost to rebuild homes, not the cost that you pay to play them. So on average in Southern California, we're seeing about $350 a square foot for a rebuild. Other structures, that is, if there's an ADU, fences, pools, all that. Personal property is everything you put into the moving truck when you move in. And then loss of use is if, let's say, there was a fire and you couldn't live in your house anymore, money for you to rent a light living situation. And then, like I said, liability is if somebody sues you. The common exclusions in homeowners insurance are construction, vacant, earthquake, flood, and then if it's a landlord, each one of these do have their own individual policies that are available. Next. And then it's required, one, because if you're taking out a loan on it, the bank wants to make sure that if there's a fire, the home can be rebuilt. They want to guarantee their investment in you guys and your home. It also allows you guys, if there's a fire, to return to normal and not have to come out of pocket $250,000, $500,000 to do the damages. Instead, you're coming out a small deductible like $2,500 or $5,000. Next slide. So how's it used is you always discuss with your agent potential claim. Then you file the claim with a company. The insurance company sends out an adjuster. They give you a work, and then they give you an estimate. You hire a contractor, and then the company will usually ask for proof of repairs just to close out the claim. Next. Here are some sample claims I've seen in my 10 years of doing insurance. Is a girl stuck her hand through the person's fence and the dog bit it. They were held liable, so their policy paid out. A kitchen caught on fire from the stove being unattended. Kitchen got smoke damage, needed a whole new kitchen, replaced. The AC breakdown is it generally does go under your home warranty. There are some endorsements you can do on your homeowner's insurance to cover this. And then a pipe burst in the bathroom, it's covered. They're going to take care of you. And next. Thank you, Cory. Does anybody have any questions?
Perfect, perfect. Awesome, awesome. Here. All right, perfect. So next one is Mike Mina. He wants to come up here and be as appropriately as he possibly can. I know it's pretty hard for him. No pun intended.
I like holding Guys, do you need a microphone, Mike? Do what?
Well, just so they can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh God, this is really exciting down there. So I own a mortgage company, been in the mortgage industry for about 33 years. Mortgages is what you basically need to buy a house. So we had this, what they call that, California Dream for All that made it for 2,600 people. And then the 2,600 people is everybody, by the way, according to California. And that lasted about 9 days. They thought the program would last a few months. It lasted 9.5 days, whatever it was. That was a big program, and it showed people that they could do an equity share to get a property and do zero down. And so we found that zero down is a really big factor. And the fact that you're saving 15 to 20% versus an FHA loan was a big deal too. So FHA on May 8th is coming out with a 40-year mortgage. FHA will allow you to finance with 3.5% down. And that should save you about 5% versus what you're paying today. So if you get a $500,000 mortgage, you're going to save about $250 a month on that 40-year term versus a 30-year term. Is it great? No. Is anything great for 40 years? No. It's like a marriage. It's going to blow up at some point. No, I'm just kidding. But it gets you, it's a tool to get people in. And getting that down payment is always going to be the key for people. What I like to look at in a mortgage versus renting a property is the fact that you are going to be paying off principal each and every month. You're going to be paying interest that you're going to have deducted. So let's say you get in at a 6% interest rate and you get a $700,000 mortgage. You have $42,000 that you're writing off that first year. Most people are in the 24 to 32% tax bracket. So let's just say that $42,000 is going to equate to $10,000 back in your pocket at the end of the year. Or you can make adjustments on a monthly basis and bring that $800 or $830 back into your pocket each and every month so you can afford this higher payment. So we look at the appreciation. Also, we've averaged 5.6% per year over the last 60 plus years. So if I buy a $700,000 property and it goes up 5%, it's going up $35,000 a year. So we add up all of those numbers And a house generally costs you between $800 and $1,500 a month, even if your payment's $4,000, $4,500 a month. Anybody here ever have a rental where they dropped your rent rate? Oh, I haven't heard that yet either. I haven't seen a hand yet go up in that. So renters are always going to raise your rents. Obviously, if you're in LA City right now, they've had the moratorium for 3 years, and that goes on through March of next year where rents have been flattened. But rents are going to go up, and they're going to probably go up 7 or 8% next year when we get to that point, and they're going to be able to raise rents. So you don't want to be in a rental long-term. You want to be owning a property. And Cory said it beautifully about the people who have most of the wealth are the people with properties, and they own properties, and they keep buying properties, and they leverage properties, and they buy more, and they buy more, and they buy more. And I'm not saying that. I mean, we all need something for retirement. So I'll give you a couple quick stories. I have a client I talked to the other day. Dad was a principal, mom was stay at home. They've had their house paid for over 30 years. They're paying $30,000 a month right now in healthcare. Dad's 95, mom's 92. They need to do a reverse mortgage at this point. Thank God their house in Tarzana is paid for and has been for over 30 years. We need to save for retirement. They had 4 or 5 rental properties that are paying some of the income that they need. And then they have the pension from the LA Unified School District. So it gives them some income, but when you're paying out 30 grand a year just to take care of yourself, that's a problem. So Social Security is not going to be enough. Buying one property is probably not going to be enough, but it's going to make you secure. So think about being that person. I go back to my first rental. If I was going to go rent, I was going to pay probably $1,500 a month out of high school or whatever it was. That same property to rent today would probably be $5,000 or $6,000. Okay, that I rented with my buddy that we lived in for a year or whatever it was. So what I want to say is those things don't go down. My grandmother purchased a house back in the 1930s or 40s for $3,000. Okay, that house is a 4,000 square foot house in Los Feliz. It's probably worth $2.5 to $3 million today. So my parents paid 30 for their first house. I paid 200 for my first house. Okay, my first kid that bought a house paid $975 for her first house. So this is what happens. It's the evolution. So everything seems like it's super high today, and it seems like prices and payments are too high. And I agree, they are. Interest rates are going to come down at some point. We've already come off the 7% mark into the 6s and the 5s. Our FHA rates are in the mid to low 5s right now. It's not terrible interest rates. The problem is the affordability is bad. So Cory's probably going to talk about the 6.5 million homes that we're short in the United States right now of what we need to get an average balanced market. I'm from the Santa Clarita area. A normal market there is 1,000 homes on the market. Okay. We right now have about 212 homes on the market last I checked. That means a bad market where we have low inventories, 400 to 500. We have 212 homes. We're at half of a bad market. Every house that goes up on the market that is priced in a decent fashion is getting bid up right now by 8, 9, 10, 12 people. It's not going to get better because builders can't build. And so when you look at a mortgage, call me. We'll go over everything. We've got 0 down payment programs. Okay. If that's what you need, I'd rather see you put 3% down or 3.5% down. FHA trimmed down their PMI fee earlier this year. So that's dropped that down and made FHA pretty reasonable for most people to buy. They have what they call a streamlined refinance. When we get to that point, we don't even need income documentation when we go to do a refinance if you get an FHA loan. But 0 down, 3% down, 3.5, 5. And then I want to go back to the equity share because I've been pushing this the last week. So let's say you have an uncle or an aunt that have some money, okay? Because some of us have an uncle or an aunt. I have an uncle who's the cheapest bastard in the world, and he has a ton of money, okay? I would never approach him for $1 because he's a prick, but we're not going to talk about that today. But let's just say that we have an uncle or aunt that has money and they don't know what to do with that money. And they're sitting on money. If you approach them with an equity share agreement or arrangement and said, hey, uncle or aunt, I really can't afford to get in this market right now at $800,000 or $850,000, but I can afford a $600,000 to $700,000 mortgage. Would you be willing to gift me or loan me the 20% down payment? And then we'll set that up where 15% of it's a loan and 5% is a gift. But then when we do the equity share agreement, you go ahead and share the equity with them. They're going to probably make, if you pay them 2 or 3% on their money and the appreciation goes up 4 or 5%, they're going to make 7 or 8% on that. And when they need the money, when they go to retire, that's not a terrible way to go either. So there's a lot of options for us out there. Okay. So this equity share thing that the county did or may do again next year, or the state did. And if you're buying in LA City, that program still does exist. Believe it or not. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the LA City program that still exists, income restrictions and things like that. But there are programs out there for you with 0 down, 3% down, 3.5% down, 20% down, or pay all cash if you've got the cash. But I've got some flyers, I've got some other things, but every situation with a loan is individual. The most important thing is to get in the market now. And, you know, I know that if I sat in a room and there was 50 people in this room, half of them would think that prices are going down. And I will tell you for a fact, we had the only time prices went down was when we went from 3% interest rate in January of last year to 7% in September. Prices dropped by about 10%. And then people got used to the interest rates and now their prices are going back up again. And so I don't see rates, the values going down again, unless we had a 9 or 10% interest rate where the affordability just became horrible. Okay. If you're getting 9, 10, 12, 20, 30 offers on a property, that means prices are going up and there's no way of stopping that. So get in the market as soon as you can. And I'm not saying go to, you know, and people always say, oh, I got to have a house. I've got to have a house with 3 bedrooms. What are you living in now? Well, I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment and, you know, our dog lives at the neighbor's next door because there's no room for it or whatever. So we get that, but you don't have to go to the 4-bedroom house right away. Go to a condo, then hold the condo and move to the next one. So let's talk about this real quick. If we have 5% appreciation annually, and we buy a $400,000 condo or a $600,000 condo, it's going up $30,000 a year. Rents are also going up, okay, during that period of time or whatever period of time. So as we see those rents go up and we live in that house for 3 or 4 years and we say, hey, forget it, we only put 3% down, we'll go put 5% down in the second house and we're going to save our money that way. And we're going to rent this one and we hold that one forever. And we buy house number 2 and then we move out of house number 2 and we buy house number 3 and we hold these first 2 houses. Okay. What are we going to have at the end of the day? That $400,000 house in 30 years is going to be worth 1.4, 1.5 million. The $600,000 second home is going to be worth 2.2, 2.4 million. The third house that we live in is going to be worth $3+ million. Now we're going to have that retirement. We're going to have rental income coming from those 2 properties. And we're going to have our house hopefully paid for at that point. So look at real estate as a tool. He's right. The rich people have real estate. That's just what they have. And they do it because they're able to leverage. And remember, if you buy a property with 3% down and the property goes up 3%, what did you make return on your investment? 100%. So if you make 4% on that property, you're making 133% on that initial investment that first year. So that's the leverage aspect of real estate. If you put 20% down on a rental property, it goes up 4%. Okay. And that person's paying rent and you're getting money and and it goes up 4%. You're making 20% on your money just because you put your 20% down on your rental property. You don't do that in the stock market. If you put money in and you buy Apple and you pay $100 for a share of Apple and it goes to 104, you make 4%. But if you buy a real piece of real estate and you pay $100,000 and it goes up 4%, you make, depending on what you put down, 20 to 100%. That's why we buy real estate. That's why real estate is so powerful. When you get into rental properties, there's other kinds of deductions. So if you're a W-2 wage earner, and I know I'm taking too much time, but I don't care. If you're a W-2 wage earner, I have my brother-in-law and my sister are W-2 wage earners, and I've been begging them to buy rental properties for years. And they're like, oh my God, the kids' school and this and that and the other, they can't afford anything. They make plenty of money, okay, but they spend too much on crap. But I told them I buy a rental property. Why? Well, when you redid your kitchen, you could have paid for your kitchen with your remodel money, and you could have said it was on my rental property. Is this being recorded? It's not
It is being recorded.
Okay.
Right to the IRS.
Right to the IRS. So you go ahead and you redo your pool. Okay. Oh, that was one of my rental properties. The IRS isn't going to go in and check to see if you had a pool at your rental property. Oh, you want to redo this? You do bath. There's not a contractor out there in the world who won't write a bill for a different house. Okay. So if you said, oh, that's on my rental. Oh, that's on my rental. That's on my rental. That's what it is. It's on your rental. So I want you to think about not just one house, but 2 or 3 or 4, especially if you're a W-2 wage earner, it's going to give you so many openings in the future. And Cory's great. I've known Cory for how long now? Like 5, 6, 7 years?
At least.
Way too long. But he cares. And there's not a lot of realtors. I work with probably 100+ real estate agents. There's not a lot that care about your future. So this is your man. This guy knows what's going on. His team is great. And I appreciate you having me here. And I'm going to
Perfect.
go have lunch with my daughter.
All right. Thank you. So one, I just want to touch on, he said that the market went down by 10% from January to September. That was month over month. But year over year, appreciation actually went up by 1%. And the main reason why is because when rates went from 3 to 7%, the only people that were actually selling homes were distressed homeowners. Because why would you sell a home when your rate was at 3 and now it's at 7? So now you have to trade and pay double in your interest rate. And then as well as you have a bunch of equity in your home because we just got through 20 and 30% appreciation in a year. Why would someone want to sell? Well, it's because they had to sell. So that was one of the reasons why that little sweet spot happened. But overall, you don't buy real estate unless you're trying to flip a home for that short-term gain. Your whole point of buying real estate is to hold on to it as long as possible. In the last probably 90 days, I've talked 11 sellers out of selling their home. So they called me to say, hey, I want to sell my home. I think it's time to go. We went there and we talked about it and we ended up not convincing them, but they actually self-discovered that they should own the home and keep it, rent it out, and go buy another one. So one reason why I think agents are so transactional that they're just like, oh, I can get you the highest price. Why is that the most important thing? The most important thing is how do I get you to keep the home? Because now you have 2 homes that are appreciating. Next to that stock thing that he said, it's so true that when you buy stocks, if you buy $100 worth of stocks, you needed $100 to do so. So if you had $100,000 worth of stocks, it's because you had $100,000 to invest versus you can buy a $300,000 home with $9,000. But when you get the appreciation, it's off that $300,000. So you're not getting 3% of your $9,000, you're getting 3% of your $300,000. And that's why real estate, I believe, and I'll contest it with any financial planner, it is the best market in the world to do it. I believe other markets, you're basically risking your money and risking your retirement. If I have a retirement, why am I going to have this retirement that's going to build and it could possibly lose 30% in 1 year? And there's no key indicator that's showing that's going to happen. It just happens. Versus real estate, you can kind of see the key indicators. And as long as you hold on to it, you know you're going to make that money back. Going into some of these things is going to be redundant of what he said. But we're going to talk about down payment and closing costs. So again, based on the studies NAR did, the 2 major things that stop someone from buying a home is down payment and closing costs. A lot of people think that you need 20% down or it's the most advantageous thing to do. If you wait 5 years to collect that 20%, I promise you the amount of money you spent on rent that went to the landlord's pocket towards his mortgage into the the fire can of the trash can, you will never make up. So it's always more important to buy as fast and as soon as you possibly can. The second thing, so we talked about that. And then the closing costs are 1 to 3%. So we'll go into here. So right now, again, he kind of already hit on some of these. There's something called the CalHFA loan. So it's basically where it's a 3.5% FHA loan. They'll give you what's called a ZIP loan. They give you the 3.5% for the down payment. It doesn't need to be paid on it or back until you refinance or sell it. And then they'll also give you 3% for the closing costs. So literally with the price of running your credit, $35, a home inspection, $495, and an appraisal, $895, you can get into a home. And if you buy through us, we'll actually pay for those things. So you don't even need to come out of pocket with those things. So then there's the California Dream Program. It's basically gone away, but there are other ways that we do have investors that will give you 20% for your down payment, and then they'll become your equity partner. And people go, why do you want to do that? Because it gets you into a home. It lowers your monthly payment. So that's also a good thing. It'll help you get approved for more. And then if let's say you buy a house for $500,000, 5 years, it goes up $100,000. Are you willing to give someone $20,000 of that? And so you can make $80,000 and you did it with no money in your pocket. It's kind of a no-brainer. There's also a program called NACA. These are the people that coined the term predatory lending. So all the big banks have to give this nonprofit organization money. You have to go through their program. It takes about 6 months to do so, but they'll do 100% financing, and usually the rate's 2 to 3% lower. There's no income qualifications, and there's the only credit restrictions you have is you can't have any collections in the last 2 years. You have to be gainfully employed for the last 2 years, and you can't have any lates in the last 2 years. So make yourself a good credit-worthy person, and they will give you the money. CalVets, obviously, you can get 100% financing. And then some people don't know, but USDA loans. So anywhere that's considered rural, so Palmdale, Lancaster, Green Valley, there's places up in San Bernardino as well, is if it's in this USDA program, you get 100% financing. And again, they don't have income restrictions that most loan programs do. So if you're interested in going out there, and one thing that you could possibly do is you don't have to buy your first home as a first-time home buyer moving into it. You can intend to move into it for 30 days, and then say, you know what, this living out here in the middle of nowhere doesn't help for me. I'm going to rent it out, and you can rent that house out. Or you can go into like a 2 to 4 unit property, and that'll help you. You live in one and you rent out the other 3. So we talked about this. Also, what can happen is a closing cost can be paid by the seller. So let's say there's a $500,000 house. We pay $515,000 and ask $15,000 in closing costs from the seller. Seller makes the exact same amount of money, but now you have the closing costs paid for with no money out of your pocket. And then we already talked about the ZIP loans. And then again, he kind of hit on this: grants, gifts, and nonprofits. So there are people from parents. There's grants from the government. There's grants from nonprofits. There's investors. You can also use your tax refund, or if you have a 401k or self-directed IRA, you can use all that money for down payments and closing costs. So we're going to talk about increasing your purchasing power through your credit. So again, your wrong slide. We're going to be talking about increasing your purchasing power. So what it does is you need credit, you need a down payment, and your third thing is increasing your purchasing power. So when you have your qualifying purposes, you want to have a 38 to 50% DTI, which is your debt to income ratio. So they take all your debt that's on your credit report, and they take your monthly debt, they add it up, and then they divide that by your income. And that needs to be 38 to 50%. FHA actually has a no DTI limit on some of their programs. All they want to make sure is that you have income coming in. I don't think you should extend yourself past the 50%. It's just not a smart thing to do. But if it makes sense and it cash flows, then there's maybe something else. One of the fastest ways to increase your income is to lower your debt. So if you look at your credit report, and let's say you have a high interest credit card of $2,000, the payment's probably $500 a month with 23% interest. If you lower that, every dollar you lower that monthly payment, you just increased your income by $3 to $4. So it's almost 2 to 3 times the amount. So that's one thing I would do is I'd go look at your credit and go, okay, you have 3 credit cards right now. There's about $5,000 on there. If you lower this balance, you're lowering your monthly payment, and every $100 is like making $400 extra in income. So why not go there first rather than going to your boss and asking for a raise that you might not get? Or if you're in the film industry, you're stuck at the 3%, wages increase. So that's one of the things. Or if you have an installment, so if you have a car loan, let's say there's 8 payments left. If you pay down those 2 payments and you have less than 6 months worth of payments, they don't even count that against your debt to income ratio. So there's other ways that you can lower your debt and increase your income. Another way that you can possibly do it is you can add on buyers. So we call this house hacking. So if, let's say, you and 3 buddies rent a house together, you're all room renting for $1,000, or you're renting the house for $4,200, why not all go together and buy a house together? Or if 3 of them don't want to do it, or only 2 of them want to go buy a house with 2 of them and let the other 2 be your renters. They're fine paying someone else's mortgage, so why not pay your mortgage instead of someone that they don't know? This will help you. We just helped someone do it last year. They're actually 4 college students. They got their parents involved. They all went onto the loan together. They bought a house together, and they just approached me and said, hey, can we do this again? 2 of us are going to stay here and rent the other 2 out to 2 of our other buddies. 2 of the other ones are going to go buy and live in there, and they'll rent to 2 other people. So now we're looking to buy their second home, and they're planning to do this every single year so that by the time they graduate, each one will own their own home. We're going to keep them because there's always going to be college students that rent them out, rent them out, and they're going to be plus positive. It was like $1,500 a month each person, which is great because that just lowered their mortgage by $1,500 on their primary residence. So again, some of this is going to be geared towards film industry people. You guys work 12, 15, 17 hours a day. Do you really care who's room renting with you? You're not there enough to care. You're there to sleep. So as long as they're not a crack addict or someone that's going to play music all through the night, what's it matter? So I would get together with 3 other grips and say, hey, let's go buy a house together. We're all renting. I've heard grips renting for $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, so they can be in Silver Lake. It's like, dude, you're throwing that money away. The reason why you don't have any more money and you can't save any money is because you're spending so much on rent. Why not get together with one other person and go buy a home together? We solved the down payment, we solved the closing costs. So now we're increasing your power to do that. Also, FHA does have what's called non-occupying buyers. So you can get together with your parents and say, hey, will you help me go on this loan together? They can help you qualify for income. You can get a 0 down % interest rate, and they can actually help you buy your first home just by doing that part of it. You are the first person that has to pay the payment. And you could do this with investors as well. And then the other way is, again, buying a multi-unit. So if you buy a 4-unit property, you live in one, the rental income that you're going to get for the 3 units will help you qualify for income and allow you to go in it. Or in that exact same situation, let's say you're renting rooms with 3 other people. Each of you get your own unit to rent out with yourself. Each one of you guys can rent out the extra room because they're usually 2 and 3 bedroom 4-unit properties. And that way you're all making cash flow. And hopefully, if you do the math right, they're actually paying your mortgage. And what a better way to live than rent free. So were any questions at this point in time before I go into the next part of it? No questions. All right. So then credit repair. So again, there's thresholds. 580 is the FHA. You need a 580 minimum credit score to apply for these 3% loans, these no percent loans. And again, right now, it's the craziest thing. You'll get lower PMI and a lower interest rate in an FHA product if you have a 580 score versus a 720 score. To me, not to get political, that just makes no sense. If someone doesn't pay their payments, they haven't paid their credit card payments, they have late, why are they getting a better rate than someone that has a 720 that showed credit worthiness? But it is what it is. So if you're going to take advantage of it, take advantage of it. Then you have your 640, which opens you up to more programs, gets you a little bit better rate on conventional financing, and then 680 and 720. So there are different loan programs. I was going to have Mike here talk about that. He kind of did talk about a little bit of it, but just know that we can help you. So different ways that you can increase your credit score. One, if anything's older than 7 years, like let's say you had a collection 7 years ago, it legally is supposed to come off your credit, but they don't automatically do it sometimes. So you just need to dispute it and say this is a 7 years past, and they'll actually take it off your credit. You'll look for duplicates, wrongs, anything that's wrong, as well as mistakes. So let's say you have a collection and they sold it to another collection company and they're both showing up in your credit. You can get one of those deleted just by disputing. If you guys don't have like creditkarma.com or My Free Credit Report, something like that, you guys should have it a way to monitor yourself. And that way you can dispute things as they come up, but they also make it very easy to dispute right through the bureaus. The only thing that I would hesitate on is if you owe the money and it's a correct collection and let's say they stopped reporting 3 years ago. If you dispute it, there is a chance that now they are going to report and it's going to hurt your credit again. Once it's been reported, it's already done the damage. Unless they keep reporting it month in and month out, then it just keeps hurting your credit over and over. So just be careful on those ones. Another thing that you could do is if you pay your balance, so let's say you have a $3,000 limit. If you get your balance under $1,000, 33%, that'll actually help your credit score immensely. But don't pay it all the way off because that actually can go and start hurting your credit. So there's a sweet spot from 20 to 30%. To keep that, they want to see, creditors want to see, lenders want to see that if they lend you money, that you're actually using that credit in a responsible way. If you have, established new credits, you want to at least have 2 accounts that at least have a $2,000 limit. That is one of the mortgage lenders. That's what they require. It can be a car loan, can be a credit card, can be something like that. Every 6 months, you should be able to go to your credit card companies and ask them to increase your limit. By increasing your limit, you don't even have to pay down your balance, and it gets that closer to that 33%. One little trick that I do, or I did when I was fixing up my credit, if there was something that's been sitting there for a little while, if you dispute and send them a letter, certified mail, that company has to supply the credit bureaus with information that shows that you actually do owe it on every single letter that you send them. So if you send them a letter for 30 days. Every day you send them a new letter, just altering why you're disputing it. If they miss one, if they don't respond to one, and they only have 30 days to respond it, if they don't do it, they legally have to have it removed from your credit. So your luck is that if you just keep on sending letters every single day, either they just get tired of disputing it, or they can't come up with the one reason or the necessary information. There are credit repair companies that do this. Don't ever do debt consolidation that just hurts your credit, or credit counseling, I think it's called. But if there's an attorney that will write these dispute letters for you, those are the ones that you want to look for, because they have all the legal jargon and these custom things, but you could probably Google it and find most of them on Google anyways. And then probably the biggest trick that you're going to learn, this actually increased my score by 150 points. You add yourself on as an authorized user. So a family member, maybe a boss, someone that you trust, a friend, a girlfriend, if they add you on, a boyfriend, they add you on as an authorized user, not as a joint borrower, but as an authorized user. Their credit card gets sent to them. So you're not getting a copy of their credit card to go spend money on it and go ruin their credit. You're doing it where they get the credit card, they go buy a piece of candy with it. When they do, that trade line goes onto your credit history. So my dad did it for me. My score went up by 150 points in 45 days because he did it on 3 different accounts. But I also learned as I stayed on there, he had one credit card that he would go spend a bunch of money on every so often, and all of a sudden it would hurt my credit because now it looks like I have a high balance credit card that I don't want. So just make sure whoever you do it, you want to have the account there for at least 10 years. You want a really high limit. The higher the limit, the better. You want the balance to generally stay under 33%, and you don't want them to have any lates in the last 2 years. Any questions on the credit? And again, if you guys want, I'm not a credit repair, advisor, but I can definitely know and teach you what I've done. So if any time you guys want to go through your credit report, just pull it on creditkarma.com or my free credit, and I'll go over for free the different things that you can do to increase your credit scores. Sometimes there's things you can do, and sometimes there's not, and sometimes it's going to result into going on to someone as an authorized user. Off the record, I do have investors that if you need your score increased, they will add you on as an authorized user for like $300 to $500 per trade line. So if you're going to buy a home in the next 6 months and you want to have a 720 credit score, they'll add you on as an authorized user, let you get the home, and once you get the home, they're going to pull you off as an authorized user. So that's one of the tricks that you can do. Any questions just before we kind of wrap this up into the strategy? And for those that are doing lunch that are here, I think we're either going to go over to the barbecue pit and we can all go there and we'll take care of it. Just because I didn't know how long and how many people were going to show up here. Yeah.
So why would an equity investor go into business if that's somebody that they don't know or a stranger? What would be the motivation?
So let's say I'm an investor and I have my 20 homes. After 20 homes, I have to buy my houses all cash, or the lenders aren't going to lend on me, or I have to do a commercial loan, which is not advantageous at all. So if I can go to you and say, okay, the lender is going to give you the loan, so you have to be qualified in order to do so. You're going to be responsible for those payments. If I can come on as an equity partner, I'm coming on to title onto the home, so I'm secured with the real estate. I give you the $100,000. Now my money is making money. I don't have to pay any payment for that, so I don't have to worry about the payments. And in 5 years, if I can make 20% on that money, that's a good return. If I made 20,000 on my thing, I just made 5% a year. That's better than keeping it in the bank at 1 to 2%. So that would be the thing. And because they're on title, if you fail to pay the thing, they can actually, in that equity partnership, they can actually get the home and take the home back from you. So that would be one of the reasons why they would do it, is just to kind of help their money. Or let's say I'm doing a 1031 exchange and I found a property, let's say I own $1 million property and I found an $800,000 property that I want to buy. Well, I have to buy up or more than what I sold. So now I can buy my $800,000 property, take the other $200,000 and put it into the home that you're buying, and now own this property and satisfy my 1031 exchange. So that's why they do it. Yeah, great question. Anyone else? Okay, so number one, I just want you guys to know, even if my goal is that every single person here that wants to buy a home, my goal is to help you buy a home in the next 12 months. And I think every single person, as long as you're gainfully employed for the last 2 years, and you're willing to do what it takes, I believe every single one of you guys can be homeowners. And I believe that this year might be, and this is just me, my conspiracy mind, this might be the last year that the average American can afford to buy a home. You know, Mike was talking about homes getting bought up so quickly. Most of the people who bought, 65% of the people who bought a home last year were hedge funds, insurance companies, and investors. They're buying up real estate like crazy. One, because they figure that in the stock market, again, the way you leverage your money, if they have $500,000 in the stock market, they're only making money on that money when it's growing. And the only way to realize that income is by selling their stock. So they're selling their appreciating asset versus they can take that $500,000 out, put it into a house and probably 5 different homes with 20% down. Now they own $2.5 million worth of real estate on their asset, and they're a $2.5 million real estate asset. It's appreciated by 5%. So they're making a lot more money. And the best part is every 3 years, they can, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is, they can take out money and go buy more homes with it and get more people to rent from them. So they want to turn our country into a forever renters nation like Europe. People in Europe don't buy homes. They inherit them or they sell them when they pass away. I believe America is going to become like that, or is becoming like that. We are close to, it's called the threshold, where there's 60% of people are homeowners. We're getting close where that number is going to start dipping down. And once it goes to 55%, it'll more than likely never turn back the other way. And you will be forever renters. The people who are selling right now, or the biggest pocket, is going to be seniors. They're going to be selling their distressed home. Most first-time home buyers or second-time home buyers won't want to buy the distressed home. So an investor is going to come in, fix it up, and instead of flipping it, they're going to hold on to it. So we can set up a strategy session with each one of you guys. They're free, and we'll not only teach you how to buy a home, but we'll build a real estate plan to help you build, protect, and transfer generational wealth. We're going to help you get CRE qualified. So Mike is one of my preferred lenders. He didn't say it, but he has his own bank. He has his own money that he's willing to lend, as well as he's a mortgage broker. The coolest thing about Mike, and I've seen him do it, is if you're an escrow and he says that he can get you qualified, hell or hell of water, even if he has to lend his own money, he will do so. And he's done silent seconds and zip loans, like kind of like the government has done, where he'll give you the money to close, and then just whenever you refinance or sell it, he'll get his money back. So once you get that, then once we know what you can get pre-approved for, then we'll identify the areas, we'll identify your search criteria, then we're going to locate the home. Something that's unique about our group is, I don't care if I show you 5 homes, 10 homes, 100 homes, 200 homes, you're never wasting my time, because, and all respect to Grips, whatever keeps the sandbag out of my hand, I'm all for it. And then secondly, I don't know what the perfect home is for you. You're going to know what the perfect home is for you. What I can tell you is I'm a pit bull negotiator, and I know how to do the research on the seller. So I know what their hot points are to get you the best price and the best terms. But let's take some time and find out what that perfect home is. So whether we go look at 10 homes today, I showed 256 homes to a client over a 2.5-year period before we found the right one. So it's just part of the process. And we also found the perfect home in the first home, which is awesome. Then we'll negotiate, then we'll open up escrow. We'll use our team to make sure it gets done right. And then we'll go over the 3 major contingencies. And when we get to that period, we're actually going to do another session with you, showing you the 7 ways that we're advocates for you, and we fight for your deposit and make sure that your deposit is never in jeopardy. And then we always make sure that our escrows close. To date, over 100-something transactions, we've never had a client lose their deposit, and we've never fell out of escrow for something that was other than the buyer actually wanting to get out. For there was too many damages or too much that went in the inspection. They didn't want to buy the home. They pulled out, but they never fell out of escrow because of something that either we did or something that was undisclosed. So I thank you guys all for showing up. It was a little bit shorter than we thought, but let me know if you guys have any questions. Again, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I always say stupid people don't ask questions. So you guys have any? And if anyone's online, if you guys have any questions or thoughts.
Cory,
Yes.
you mentioned a 1031 exchange.
Mhm.
Can you clarify what causes the need for it and what
So yeah. So a 1031 exchange is when you own an investment property. That's one of the requirements, is it has to be an investment property. And basically what you're doing is maybe that property is not performing anymore. So like Mike was talking about, that they owned a property, they owned it for 30 years. Well, you've already depreciated. So that's one of the things that he didn't talk about. And thank you for bringing it up, is when you own an investment property, you can actually depreciate the cost of the home. 27 divided by the value of the home. So every year you can depreciate that asset and write it off against your taxes. So if you had $33,000 of income off of rental income, but you had $36,000 in depreciation, as far as the IRS is considered, you just lost money. But once that asset is totally depreciated in 27 years, then it makes no sense for an investor to hold that home. He should sell that home, 1031 exchange, and put that money back into another investment property. And that way his depreciation schedule restarts. So when you do a 1031, either that has happened, total depreciation has been executed, or let's say the property is not performing. A lot of times investors, they buy these homes thinking that they're going to cash flow. LA County, they put a memorandum, you can't increase your rents. And now that property is not performing, or maybe it has like a 3 to 4% capitalization rate. You can sell that property and go in Ohio and get a 10% capitalization rate. So why wouldn't, if you're buying a house for cash flow, why wouldn't you sell out of here and go buy those houses for cash flow? There's two reasons to own investment properties: for cash flow and for appreciation. So you got to decide which properties are you buying and which goals are you trying to accomplish. I have some properties that I'm getting $1,500 a month in cash flow, and I have properties that I'm paying $300 in cash or in negative cash flow. So I just decided which ones is there for me to cash flow on and offset my own primary residence, and which ones I'm holding on there for the 30 to 40 years to appreciate to go give to my kids one day. So the cool thing, and most investors don't know about it, is you can do a 1031 exchange and put it into someone else's primary residence. Just that portion of the equity is going to be an investment property. You're going to own it. And then, so it's good for like families, for like Uncle Mikey's and, different aunts, a family that own property. Maybe they own an investment property and you're like, hey, mom, dad, help me buy a property. Like, well, this one's cash flowing. Okay, perfect. So let's go sell this property, 1031 exchange a certain amount into your property, and to use the other portion to go buy them a cash flowing property. And now they have 3 properties, their own primary residence, and those 2 instead of just the 2. So that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Anyone else? Anyone else? No? All right. Well, there's a bar, like I said, we'll go to the barbecue hut. It's like walking distance. We can take a car there too. And we'll take care of everyone's lunch. And I appreciate you guys coming here. We do these lunch and learns once a month. We're going to do it for home buyers. Once a month, we do it for investors. This month's about 1031 exchanges and DSTs. Even if you're not ready there yet, I promise the information that you'll learn will blow your mind, and it's like next level. And it'll also be something that if you do have parents or family that own properties, you should bring them to it, because it'll open their mind and blow their mind of different ways they can make money. And then we do specialize in senior living. So we're doing a senior living options. What are they and how do you plan for that? That's at a senior living community. And again, if you have a grandparent, a parent, this is perfect for those resources as well. So thank you guys all for coming. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you, Cory.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
Raphael's is in the process of buying his first home right now. So before the end of the month, we will be in escrow and he will be a home buyer.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Cory. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.